Normally, I would not do any Steel Path mission longer than 15 minutes right now. I already have my fill of level cap in the past, and I'm enjoying Warframe as a chill game these days. However, the new Warframe changed this, and I did not even notice that I already did the Steel Path survival mission for 35 minutes. There's nothing to brag here, and all I want to say is that this is the effect of the new Warframe, and let me tell you how broken and enjoyable playing the new Warframe named Koumei.
Now, Koumei is absolutely amazing. She is arguably one of the best primer frames right now, and a huge CC-based frame that is incredibly active to play.
The brand new Warframe Koumei just released, and she is incredibly strong, even on very low investment and pure chaos on screen.
Koumei is here, and when I say that this frame may be the best frame to ever grace this game, at least so far, I'm not even baiting.
Hey everyone, Pupsker here. Everyone has so much hate right now, it looks like, towards Koumei and her weapons. I've seen so many people shit talk Koumei and all of her weapons. I get it, because like they're pretty whatever. They're all pretty low tier, depending on what you're looking for.
We are finally going to talk about Koumei, because I have to at this point. Koumei is out. She's the new Warframe. She's the new headliner for the update, and she is not very good. She is very poor. To clarify before we get into things today, the build I'm going to show kind of makes her function and do the things that she is capable of doing, which is to say not a lot. But what I'm not going to show you is just me shooting the turret at guys and pretending that decrees are what's making it good.
Oh my god! Thank you! Oh my god, never have I agreed with anyone as much as this. Oh my god, thank you so fucking much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Oh my god, the amount of fucking copium players. But look at my decrees. Shut up. You'll be slapped. You're just using the turrets.
So, to start off, I've invested no shards in this Warframe because I think that Koumei is...
I put shards in her. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. I wasted bile on her.
Is trying to get into the bottom 5 of Warframes in the game, and she's trying to do it hard. She's trying to crack that case.
Damn.
Get into the worst 5 Warframes in the game.
Damn.
Taliban moving slightly up.
Damn.
With that, she's not worth investing shards in. No way, no how am I wasting shards and or bile on a Warframe that I'm...
Too late, man. I wasted bile, but I put bile into her and then I took it out. Actually, what's even worse, I wasted 1 Forma. Brozime did worse. He wasted 3 whole Forma. Oh my god. Do you need a hug? Do you need a hug, bro? You need a hug? Damn. He wasted 3 -3 on fucking Koumei. It's kind of hard to pronounce her name sometimes.
Koumei has had the most bizarre release as a Warframe to date. The diversity on what the community thinks is something I have never seen before. One half absolutely despises Koumei and the other absolutely loves her. One half also thinks she might be the worst Warframe in the game, and the other thinks she is the best Warframe in the game. How did this happen exactly? How does DE manage to release a Warframe so diverse that there is no middle ground to this? There is no one saying that this Warframe is okay, mid, or even average. When you ask someone what they think of Koumei, you get 2 types of answers: either insane, goated and broken, or trash, terrible and unplayable. So let's dive in and see how did Koumei split the community in half. To see why Koumei has such a reputation, let's take a look at her abilities and mechanics. Her first is called Kumihimo and allows Koumei to fill an area with threads. Enemies touching the threads get a random elemental status effect. Even though the damage is decent, the threads have a cap of how many there can be at a time. This means that Koumei, who mainly wants to build for range, cannot build for any more than 190% range. If Koumei goes above this range, then the threads stop appearing in front of her and cover an area that is further away from her, which negatively impacts the ability. The other issue is that the threads are randomly placed. They aren't consistent and you can never know if they will guarantee a hit on the enemy or not. Her third, Omamori, surrounds Koumei with charms. These charms give Koumei a 50% chance to heal an enemy attack instead of damaging her. The ability has a 3-second cooldown between the charms, and most people have an issue with this. Because of the 3-second cooldown, people tend to think of the ability as an unreliable tanking tool, especially because it is directly compared to the best tanking ability in the game, the Mesmer skin. Her fourth, Bunraku, is one of the strongest card control tools in the game. This ability hits everyone within range that is visible in your screen, triggering line of sight checks and dealing heavy damage, holding enemies in place and applying a random amount of status effects to the enemies, which can reach the maximum amount of status effects in the entire game. This is an extremely useful ability, and it also overshadows her first, as it's most of the time a more consistent and useful tool than the first ability, and they don't really have any synergy together. I left her second and her passive for last because there are a lot of misunderstandings here. Let's start with her passive. For starters, every 1 minute Koumei gives one of her 3 main weapons the ability to deal a random status effect anytime they deal damage. This has to be one of the most overpowered passives in the game. It can turn any of your DPS weapons into a primer for itself, allowing you to have a bigger variety of weapons in your arsenal and giving you a ton of free damage to the weapon of your choice. Think of it as a secondary cucumber, but on steroids, since it procs on any damage, not the status. The second part of her passive are the dice. Koumei has 5 dice that determine the power of her abilities. These dice all have a randomized roll, and in D&D terms you would look into a 5d6, so a max of 30 and a list of 6. If any of the 3 dice hit 6 at the same time, then Koumei's abilities gain extra effects. We will call this mechanic triple sixes, as DE did in the abilities reveal trailer. Here is the 2 most important parts. First of all, if the chance for a triple six to occur was the same as the real world, it would be around 3.55%. Seems terrible? Yeah, because it would be. However, this is not the case. The wiki states that Koumei has in fact an approximate 10% chance to get triple sixes and buff her abilities, but this is also false. I introduce you to a mechanic every game has, Pseudo-RNG. In video games, when you work with a percentage stat such as crit chance, the percentage to get a crit is not always the same. It's fluctuating. So, let's say you flip a coin. In a perfect environment, the coin has exactly 50% chance to hit heads or tails. You vote for heads. Okay, great. The coin tosses and it's tails. Now you take the bet again. What should you choose now? Heads or tails? If you ask most people, the answer would be tails. In a real world, this wouldn't really matter. There are a dozen factors that can determine what the coin toss would be. But in a digital world, in the world of gaming, it does matter. If there is a 50% chance to get either heads or tails and the first roll gives you tails, then you should always pick heads on your next roll. This is Pseudo-RNG. When using a chance-based system, the more odds are stacked against one result, then the next result will have higher chances to be the opposite result regardless of what the chance is. What does this mean in practice? If your weapon has 50% crit chance and your weapon does not crit, then your next shot has a way higher chance of critting. The more that your shots don't crit, the higher your chances to crit get. And you can abuse this to determine whether a shot is going to crit or not. In a game like Warframe, this is easily replicatable on the Nataruk. Look at this footage. My Nataruk gets 2 crits in a row. This is an unmodded Nataruk, meaning it has 60% crit chance. Because of Pseudo-RNG, the likelihood that my next shot will not crit has essentially tripled. But since the weapon has this high amount of crit, you can simply quick shot and guarantee a non-crit, and this will allow you to crit onto your next shot every single time. Seems like a lot of unnecessary information. There is no way anyone uses this mechanic in a game to get an advantage, right? Well, there are games out there that players do abuse this frequently, but that's not important. What is important, however, is that Koumei's dice have this mechanic innately. So, I did 50 tests twice. In a perfect scenario, the average would be 15, since there are 5 dice and the max you can get is 30. However, on both tests, the average was 18. Now, it gets interesting. Because Koumei's abilities scale with whatever your dice shows, this means that you're able to know what abilities to cast to get better results. For example, if you get 2 or even 3 rolls below 18 using your first or your fourth ability, you should try to use your second or third ability right after. It's more than likely that the roll will be above 20 and your ability might also become a triple six. Speaking of triple six, the 2 tests weren't done with the same stats. One test had 100% strength and the other test had 155% strength. On the second test, I got 7 triple sixes, and on the first test, I got 6 triple sixes. As you notice, when doing the test on 50 rolls, I should get 5 triple sixes from my passive according to the wiki, but the 100% strength test gives me 6, and the 155% strength gives me 7. Koumei's likelihood to get triple sixes on a high roll scales with the amount of ability strength she has. I did a lot of tests, and I mentioned this to a lot of people to try and replicate, and safe to say, we all had the exact same outcome. This also explains why a lot of people told me when they play Koumei they get more triple sixes the longer the mission went. This is happening from Koumei getting more strength through the mission with Molt Augmented, and the last thing that we didn't mention, Koumei's second ability, Omikuji. Koumei rolls a random challenge for her to complete. This challenge involves Koumei killing people with specific elements while performing a movement or simply landing headshots. When the challenge is complete, Koumei gets a random degree decree. Now obviously there are some decrees that are not available for balancing purposes, but the decrees themselves are still extremely broken. Here is how an endless mission looks like when playing Koumei. So, in this clip, Koumei gets the following: more damage while airborne, more magazine capacity, chance to refill her ammo on the gun that she's using when she kills someone without consuming any reserve ammo, corrosive damage, 200% fire rate, 75% innate damage reduction, a damage increase if she ever lands a headshot, 290% strength, a crazy amount of armor by dealing corrosive damage, 90% chance for abilities to cost no energy, and many more. This ability has insane potential and can make Koumei the strongest gunzerker in the entire game, outdamaging anything and anyone. But obviously there are downsides, and this is where Koumei loses her shine for me. First of all, teammates killing enemies you are trying to kill to complete the challenge do not contribute to the challenge itself, but this will be added. Koumei can receive a downside while doing the decree, which can be harmless, or it can be something like energy drain or a constant toxin throw. The decree also is completely random, unlike Deviri, and the one that most people hate is the innate cooldown. As you use Omikuji, the cooldown goes up by a flat amount which isn't moddable, and there is a cap of 150 seconds which is also not moddable. This means that after you get 8 completely random decrees that may not even be useful to you, you're locked to a 150 seconds cooldown to use the ability again. Now, triple sixes give these effects to Koumei's abilities. The threads from her 1 deal all status effects instead of the random one. The decree from her 2 is awarded without a challenge. Her 3 makes her immortal as long as there are stacks, and her 4 gets a 360 degree angle, allowing enemies around Koumei to be hit all at once. Now, knowing the abilities and how everything works, what do I think of her? I can confidently say that Koumei will be my second most played character alongside Wisp. The diversity she brings to the table is insanely fun, and the challenges take away from some of the static gameplay you get in endless missions especially. The dice system has some insane micromanaging, and as a DPS frame she has the potential to be completely unmatched. But of course, there are many issues that need to be fixed, and Koumei herself will need a lot of buffs till she can be truly loved by the community. As it is right now, Koumei is absolutely useless in squad play, and is more of a nuisance to your squad than someone who can actually help. She takes way too long to get as strong as she can, and in squad play it's frustrating for her to be frequently unable to do anything. Let's start with her 2. Yeah, Koumei assisting her teammates counting towards a challenge is a fine way to go about making it easier to complete them, but is it really the correct way to go? Koumei's mission gave your squad a random buff whenever anyone put a charm on Koumei's pedestal. Knowing this, a really nice buff to Koumei would be to make the challenge universal for the entire team. This would make it so that your teammates could easily contribute to the challenge themselves, and to reward them, Koumei can give a random buff to her team just like the mission. This would incentivize Koumei's teammates to help her get the decrees, and they would be rewarded with a nice buff for a duration when done so. Her 1 is completely outshined and is currently her subsumed because of its issues. It can deal good damage, but it is very random if it will hit or not, making the ability have an actual area of effect on the ground and changing the thread limit to be modable by duration so that Koumei can mod around that to get the most out of it would make it more reliable. Her third ability is good as is. Maybe a visual representation of when it heals Koumei and when it doesn't block the damage would help, but it's already very strong, and so is her fourth. At the end of the day, Koumei is a really strong Berserker frame that can give nothing to a squad in an MMO game. A lot of her issues stem to her limitations on her abilities and the fact that there is no synergy between certain abilities. However, as a design from the looks to how she plays, Koumei is really fun. A fantastic warframe, and I'm sure if the buffs her in the way that she can help her squad and scale a bit faster, she could become a top tier warframe. Now I have played a lot of Koumei already, so I can help you with builds and setups. Archon modes and galvanized modes are essential to Koumei, and the build I use abuses most of them with a good health tanking build. Because Koumei's decrees give her crazy amounts of armor and damage reduction as well as HP regen from kills, Koumei can simply play around her 3 over shielding her and rolling guard if things ever get hairy. She becomes extremely tanky, but to get to that she needs to micromanage her 3 stacks with rolling guard, over shield and invulnerability, and making sure that she can pick targets correctly. Her first is being replaced by Roar because Koumei can get crazy amounts of strength from her decrees, and Molt augmented. It is easily possible to reach as high as 500% Roar solo with a Night Spectre without any Fissure buff just from her decrees, giving her an extra layer of damage as well as helping with her DOTs from various decrees and her fourth. Arcane is flexible and you can freely either use acceleration, velocity, or strike depending on what weapon you are choosing. For weapons, there is not really any best choice to get. Every weapon is good with her regardless of whether it's fully automatic, semi-automatic, AoE, or a sniper. It really doesn't matter. Koumei can give crazy damage and make any non-AoE weapon deal AoE damage because of her decrees, so anything works. Remember to abuse Pseudo-RNG as much as possible when playing, so that means whenever your second and third abilities are on cooldown, you should be spamming 4 until you get 2 dice rolls below 18. Doing this will give your next roll a really high chance to be above 20 or even a 666, making the important abilities of your kit way stronger. Second Impulse is not worth in my opinion, even if you run a short mission, simply because Roar makes your fourth ability deal more damage than Second Impulse itself, and giving you decent weapon buff on top of that without any need for decrease. A lot of people have misunderstood Koumei, and there are a lot of weird reasonings thrown around. Things like she is an endurance focused warframe, or she is a new player friendly warframe so she doesn't need to be that good for Steel Path. She relies too hard on getting good decrees. She relies on getting 666s. These are all weird arguments. Koumei is good on any kind of mission. The decree systems just make her way stronger the longer the mission goes, which favors endurance runs, which is unique and cool in my opinion. She definitely isn't new player friendly. Even if players have access to her early, her builds need Archon modes and Galvanized modes, which are not even close to accessible to new players. And even if they do acquire them, they still need hundreds and thousands of Endo to max them. Koumei's decrees are almost all good. There is only 3 useless decrees in her entire kit, and with a low cooldown you can do them really quickly in short missions even with a squad. I just really hope the changes I propose for her to actually happen, because a squad would love to get something like extra crit chance to their guns for the start of the mission. Finally, 666s do not matter for Koumei at all. What matters is that your roll is above 20. For her 4, the number of status effects scale with the dice number you get. So anything above 20 adds more than enough status effects for your weapons to one-tap the enemy that your 4 has hit. Her 2 skipping the challenge is nice, but as long as the number is above 20, the number of kills needed to complete the challenge is almost at the minimum amount. The only ability that matters getting a 666 on is her 3, and abusing the mechanics we spoke of, it's something you can get fairly consistently in your mission, especially if you roll strength decrees. Koumei has become one of my favorite warframes in the game, and I am certain DE will help her become even better. There is so much potential hidden here and her playstyle is very fun. But that is my opinion. After watching this video, what do you guys think of Koumei? Did it help you understand her better? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for reaching the end of the video. I am sure a lot of comments are gonna tell me that I'm simply lying or saying bullshit just to make Koumei sound better than she actually is. Pseudo-RNG is something that has been in gaming for years. Ever since the dawn of crit chance as a stat, this mechanic has existed, and there are many competitive games that it is getting abused on to gain favorable trades. The most known one, and the one that taught me how this mechanic works, is League of Legends. Tryndamere is a character that has innate 35% crit chance, unique only to him in the entire game. Tryndamere players abuse Pseudo-RNG to their advantage to know when it is the best time to all-in their opponent. And it's simple. If you don't crit 3 times in a row while hitting minions, then stop everything and right-click the enemy. And it truly works. It's one of the main things that differentiates a bad Tryndamere from a good Tryndamere. There are obviously other factors, but knowing when you're gonna deal more damage in the least amount of time is a huge deal for a competitive game such as League. Applying this to Koumei will similarly yield a lot better results for your rolls. I am sure after this video you will get a lot of 666s, a lot of rolls above 20 when you actually needed them, and most importantly, a lot of fun while playing Koumei herself. Please leave a like and subscribe if you learned something new or you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.